Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Sauce. Unfortunately, the White Sox did not pull out that win. That was a great game, though. Vlad hit the go-ahead two-run homer. If the White Sox had won, I would have had a winning day, but they didn't, so I'm slightly in the red. I'll post the results on the screen because the Dodgers are actually still playing.
Two big losses were the White Sox, and they blew the lead with a Vlad two-run home run. And then the other one was the Brewers, went to extra innings. They lost as they got gunned down by the left fielder Happ twice in the 10th and the 11th, and that's how they lost. I'm not saying we should have won those bets. It's just we definitely could have won them. But let's put it in the past, move on to tomorrow.
Welcome to the Sauce. The Sauce. Sauce. Hey, get the sauce. First up, we got Rockies on the road in Houston to play the Astros. Chase Anderson, good old Chase, is on the mound pitching against JP France. Houston opens up as heavy favorites here, minus 240. Total opens up at 9. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet, and obviously we got a pretty heavy lean on the Astros here. 6-2 Astros after 5 innings. Final score 8-4 Astros. Well, like I said, it's Chase Anderson day, so why don't we start out by taking a look at some of his numbers. Here are his numbers through his last 3 starts, and they're actually pretty hilarious. He's 0-3 with a 21.21 ERA. No, that is not a typo in the graphic. You read that correctly. 21.21 ERA over his last 3 starts. His whip is at 3.32. The man is averaging 3.5 base runners allowed per inning. Honestly, I don't know if I've ever seen something quite that extreme before. And to make matters even worse for Chase Anderson, look how the Astros have been hitting righties recently. In the last 14 days, 2nd in WRC+, 3rd in OPS. Houston has absolutely caught fire against right-handed pitching. Here are the last 6 righty starters to pitch against the Astros. And you can see right on top, Eovaldi did blank them. 7 shutout innings. But look at the 5 before that. They rocked John Gray. They rocked Adam Wainwright. They rocked Michaelis. They rocked Gonsolin. They rocked Bobby Thriller. Chase Anderson on paper shouldn't stand a chance against this Astros lineup in Houston. On the other side, we've got JP France throwing, and he just had a great June. Look at his numbers in June. He made 5 starts, 2.43 ERA, a 1.14 whip. Now, the FIP and expected FIP numbers indicate there's probably some regression coming his way, but overall, Houston can't be mad with the way he's been producing recently. Keep in mind, he is a rookie. He's 28 years old, but this is his first year in the major leagues. He's set to pitch against this Rockies lineup that has some of the most confusing-looking numbers against right-handed pitching. 6th in average in the last 14 days, but 30th in isolated power. So they're getting hits, but just not generating any power at all. 22nd in WRC+. Remember, it's always important to remember when you're looking at the Rockies numbers that they play in Coors Field, so a lot of their surface level offensive numbers are going to be skewed. So why don't we take a look at the Rockies numbers against right-handed pitching away from Coors Field? This is from the last 30 days, and as you can see, it's really not as bad as you think. 16th in OPS, 16th in WRC+. The Rockies bats are not a straight fade against right-handed pitching right now. Here are the last 6 righty starters that the Rockies have seen on the road away from Coors Field, and as you can see, they're scoring runs on these guys. On this list, basically Bryce Elder and Garrett Whitlock are the only 2 that were able to record quality starts against this Colorado Rockies lineup. Obviously, I made that graphic before the game today, so you got to add on Belak. He went 7 scoreless today. So you got to add one more who pitched a great game against the Rockies, but still, we're looking at numbers over the last 30 days, so I don't know if one day is enough to throw that off. As far as betting this game, it's the combination of the Rockies lineup being a bit undervalued and JP France due for some negative regression. I think the play here is either the over, which is currently set at 9 or 9.5, or the Rockies team total over, which isn't open yet. So I'll let you know on the live show what I end up doing. I don't have the balls to straight up bet Colorado because Houston very well may score 10 by themselves. So either the over or the Rockies team total over. Next game, Oakland at Detroit, A's at Tigers. Big Ken's on the mound. Ken Waldichuk pitching against E-Rod. Eduardo Rodriguez finally back. Tigers open up as heavy favorites here, minus 195. Total opens up at 8. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. We got a lean on the Tigers here. 2-0 Detroit after 5 innings. Final score 5-2 Detroit. Like I said, it's officially the return of E-Rod. In case you weren't following Tigers baseball early in the season, this dude was on an absolute heater. Here's his last 9 starts before getting hurt. Other than that one Pittsburgh start, we're talking consistent production here. Look at all the FIP and ERA points on this chart at 2 or below. Erod was on an absolute mission. He made one rehab start with the Toledo Mud Hens, and it went really well. I know numbers for minor leagues are, I mean, take them or leave them, but I thought it was worth mentioning. 4 1/3 innings, no runs, 3 hits and 1 walk. I honestly don't think it's completely crazy to consider backing Eduardo Rodriguez, even in his first start back from injury here. I mean, he is pitching against Oakland. Speaking of Oakland, why don't we take a look at their numbers against left-handed pitching recently? And as expected, I mean, you're not going to find many impressive Oakland Athletic offensive numbers here. These are from the last 14 days. We're talking 26th in OPS, 24th in WRC+. Another thing I noticed is the A's haven't seen many lefty starters recently. They just saw Skubal, and he threw 4 perfect innings, and that's kind of perfect because we're talking about Eduardo Rodriguez coming back from an injury. That was Skubal's first start back from injury too. He was perfect through 4. So, I mean, who's to say Eduardo Rodriguez doesn't do the same thing? Other than that, in the last month, Oakland's only seen 2 other lefty starters, and both pitched great games. Kikuchi went 7 innings, just 1 run. Logan Allen pitched 4 scoreless innings against Oakland as well. On the other side, like I said, we've got Big Ken on the mound, and I'm not really entirely sure what to expect here. Here are Ken Waldichuk's numbers over the last 30 days, and you can see they're not absolutely terrible. I mean, 4.60 ERA isn't bad. 172 whip kind of sucks, but 3.49 whip is respectable for Big Ken. The problem is most of this production has come out of the bullpen. Of his last 8 appearances, only 1 was a start, and he only pitched 1 2/3 innings in that game. So I really don't know if he's actually going to start and pitch this game as a starting pitcher, or Oakland's just going to use him for an inning or 2 and then switch to someone else. So we can pull these numbers up. These are the Detroit numbers against lefties recently. In the last 14 days, 17th in OPS, 16th in WRC+. But like I said, if Waldichuk's only throwing an inning or 2, these numbers are kind of irrelevant. Really don't know how I'm going to bet this one as of yet. I'm not going to take Oakland. I'm looking Detroit first 5 minus a half run. Maybe Oakland team total under. I'd like to try to find out exactly what Oakland's going to do as far as pitching. If they intend on using Waldichuk as an actual starter and trying to push him 4 or 5 innings, I'm down to go Detroit first 5 minus a half run. Next game, Phillies at Rays. Taijuan Walker pitching against, I guess it's Littell, or they're going to use the primary pitcher. Looks like Chirinos is going to be the primary pitcher. Littell will pitch the first inning. That you know how Tampa does that shit. There's no line and no total open for this game, which means it doesn't even seem like the odds makers know what Tampa's going to do pitching wise. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet, and we have no lean at all. We're talking about 3-3 after 5 innings, after 9 innings 5-5. Yeah, I'm going to skip this one for now. Similar to the Oakland one, I want to try to get some more information about what Tampa Bay is going to do pitching wise. Probably have a bet for this one on the live show tomorrow at 4 p.m. Next game, Cardinals at Marlins. Steven Matz pitching against Brian Hoeing, and another one. I have no line, no total. I have no idea where this one's opening up. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. We have a slight lean on the Marlins here. 4-2 Marlins after 5 innings. Final score 6-5 Marlins. Another one where I'm going to skip for now. The fact that they're hesitant to open this line means who knows if we're really going to see these 2 starting pitchers. Probably have a bet for this one on the live show tomorrow at 4 p.m. just like the previous game. Next, Orioles at Yankees. Dean Kramer pitching against Randy Vasquez. Baltimore opens up as favorites here, minus 130 on the road. Total opens up at 9.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. We got a pretty heavy lean on the Yanks here. 4-0 Yankees after 5 innings. Final score 5-1 Yanks. So I really don't know how much faith I have in Dean Kramer right now. If you look at his FIP numbers over his last 10 starts, you can see the first half of this chart looks great. All these numbers hovering around 4 or lower, but look at the second half. I mean, that would be his last 5 starts. FIP is at 7 or higher in 4 of his last 5 starts. I really don't know if I trust this dude on the road in Yankee Stadium. And it certainly doesn't help knowing that Kramer does not have the best looking career numbers against the Yankees. 5.61 ERA, 5.03 FIP. Doesn't give me a ton of confidence, and it gets even worse. So these are Kramer's career numbers against the Yankees. Look what happens when I switch it over and we look at just his last 5 starts against the Yankees. We're talking about a 7.54 ERA, 1.68 whip, 6.36 FIP. He actually started off his career with 2 great starts against the Yanks. It's been all downhill since then. And don't look now, but there's some life in the Bronx. Look at the Yankees numbers versus right-handed pitching right here. The left is their numbers against righties in the last 30 days. Obviously pretty terrible. We know how the Yankees have been producing without Aaron Judge. But look at the right side of this chart. That's the Yankees numbers against right-handed pitching in the last 7 days. 10th in WRC+, 16th in OPS. Yankees are slowly, secretly starting to hit right-handed pitching a bit. So I like the Yankees to get to Kramer. But when we switch it over to the other side, we got Randy Vasquez pitching. Tough to really get a read on this guy. He's only made 2 starts, both at home in Yankee Stadium. One was absolutely excellent. 5 2/3 innings pitched, no runs against the White Sox. The other one wasn't so great at all. 4 2/3 innings pitched. You might look at the 2 earned runs and be like, hey, Kyle, that's not that bad of a start. But 4 hits and 3 walks and 4 2 innings pitched, 4 2/3 innings pitched is definitely not good. But seriously, what is going on with these Baltimore Orioles bats for real? Here are their numbers versus right-handed pitching in their last 30 days versus their last 7 days. You can see over the last month, they have some respectable numbers against righties. 13th in OPS, 12th in WRC+, top half of the league. But look at their numbers from the last 7 days. 29th in OPS and 29th in WRC+. Baltimore's bats are slumping hard against right-handed pitching. So I think where the value is on this one, I think a lot of people are looking at this game and they're seeing Dean Kramer versus Randy Vasquez, and they're thinking Baltimore probably has the edge in the first 5. I don't see it that way. I don't agree at all. I think it's a bit of a wash, maybe slightly leaning Yankees. If you take into consideration the splits. And then if you add on the bullpens, take a look at these numbers. Yanks have the huge edge here. As you probably already know, the Yankees bullpen has been dynamite for over a month and a half now. In the last 14 days, the Yanks bullpen is 4th in ERA, 4th in FIP. Baltimore, 19th and 15th. So I'm going right back to the Yankees here. They cashed for me last night. I'm going to run it right back with the plus money. Give me the Yankees money line. Next game. Reds at Nationals. Graham Ashcraft pitching against Josiah Gray. Cincinnati opens up as heavy favorites here, minus 145. Graham Ashcraft is a minus 145, or opens as a minus 145 favorite on the road. That's psychotic shit right there. Total opens up at 9.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet, and we got a lean on the Reds through the first 5. 4-3 Cincinnati after 5 innings. 9 inning score, 6-6. I'm skipping this one for now. I have a headache even thinking about trying to bet this. I don't want to bet Graham Ashcraft as a road favorite. What are you, nuts? But I also don't want to fade the Reds. Odds makers are looking like they're finally going to start pricing this Reds team properly. Minus 130 favorite on the road with the disadvantage of starting pitching. Really curious to see what the line does. I also want to see what the action does. I would imagine people are going to bet the Reds because they continue to win, but minus 130 on the road with Graham Ashcraft is a tough sell. So I'll skip it for now. Might have a bet for this one on the live show. Next game. Braves at Guardians. Braves finally lost the game in extras last night. Michael Soroka is pitching against Cal Quantrill in this one. Atlanta opens up as pretty heavy road favorites here, minus 150. Total opens up at 10. Let's take a look at the spreadsheet, and of course it's a lean on Atlanta. 6-4 Braves after 5 innings. Final score 8-6 Braves. So it's a lean on the Braves and a heavy lean on the over as well. I think most would agree that the Braves are the best team in baseball right now. There's a lot of bright spots on this team, but Michael Soroka certainly isn't one of them. His 2 starts on the road this year have been absolutely awful. 8.38 ERA, 186 whip, 878 FIP. I mean, truly terrible numbers here. And yeah, maybe he gets a pass for the start in Arizona, but he got hit up in Oakland. I am not going to let that one slide. And Soroka doesn't have an easy task in front of him. On the road in Cleveland, Guardians have been hitting righties for a while now. On the last 14 days, they're 2nd in average. Power numbers have dipped a little, but still 11th in OPS and 10th in WRC+ in the last 14 days against right-handed pitching. But Cleveland isn't just a lineup that's producing against righties. They're also a lineup that's been absolutely savage at home. In fact, this has been one of the best home lineups in baseball recently. Over the last 30 days, they're 4th in OPS and 4th in WRC+ at home. Michael Soroka is seriously going to have his hands full here. But the real story as far as betting this game is on the other side with Cal Quantrill. Damn, this man is having a tough time right now. Here are his numbers from his last 3 starts. And note that there's 30 days, he got hurt. So 2 of these starts were before he got hurt, and 1 of them is after he came back from the injury. But still, here are the numbers from his last 3 starts. A 15.43 ERA, 400 OBA. So in those last 3 starts, opponents are batting 400 against him collectively. Now, the 432 FIP indicates that he's had some terrible luck, but still, we're talking about 3 nightmare starts in a row against the Cubs, the Orioles, and the White Sox. This is Atlanta he's pitching against, and I don't know if you've heard, but they've been pretty good recently. Here are their numbers against right-handed pitching in the last 14 days. First in every single category. A 964 OPS as a team against righties in the last 14 days is just nuts. I'm sure Cal Quantrill will turn his season around at some point. We've seen him pitch well before, so we know Cal Quantrill isn't this bad. So he's going to bounce back at some point, but a start against the Braves right now, is this really the spot for that to happen? I'd say probably not. I know the Braves just took an L, but I don't think that's any reason to bail on this team right now. I'm probably going to bet Atlanta first 5 minus a half run. Might even lay the 1.5 with Atlanta minus 1.5. I'll let you know on the live show. Next game. Rangers at Red Sox. John Gray pitching against Mr. Bayo, Brian Bayo. Texas opens up as slight road favorites here, minus 115. Total opens up at 9.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet, and we're deadlocked after 5 innings. 2-2 tie. Final score 4-3 Texas. Well, we got John Gray pitching, like I said, and I know 2 of his last 3 starts are really rough looking, but both of those starts were at home. Good news for John Gray is he's pitching on the road, and he's got some great looking splits on the road so far this season. 1.99 ERA and 0.89 WHIP. He's been one of the better starters in baseball on the road this year. And I know Fenway Park isn't the easiest place to go in and pitch, but the Red Sox numbers against right-handed pitching recently shouldn't scare anybody. In the last 14 days, they're 22nd in OPS, 26th in WRC+. And the Red Sox bats at home, again, they just really shouldn't scare anybody. Keep in mind, the last series in Fenway they had, Boston scored just 3 runs combined in 3 games against the Marlins. And if you stretch it out to the last 30 days, the Red Sox bats at home really haven't been putting up numbers. 21st in WRC+, 16th in OPS. I think John Gray can throw a good one here. But here's the problem with fading Boston in this spot. It's Bayo Day, and this kid is just a machine. Here are his numbers from his last 11 starts. 2.33 ERA, 1.08 WHIP, 3.45 FIP. And you might be thinking like, oh, those are pretty good, but they're not that dominant. That's over an 11-game sample size. 11 games. This is dating back to April. He's been putting these numbers up. Now, no question, the Texas Rangers lineup is going to be a tough test for Bayo. That being said, their numbers against righties are down a little bit. I mean, they're still top 10 lineup, but in the last 14 days, 9th in WRC+, 10th in OPS. And also, we look at their numbers on the road, maybe a little bit lower than you'd expect. In the last 30 days, the Rangers are still a top 10 lineup on the road. But what I'm saying is the Rangers' numbers against righties and on the road might not be as extremely good as you would expect them to be. So I kind of like both starting pitchers to have good games here. As far as bullpens go, Jesus Christ, man, your guess is as good as mine. I mean, I guess I'd give the slight edge to Texas, but not by much. Really don't trust the Rangers bullpen at all. Here are their numbers over the last 14 days. You can see Texas is 26th in ERA, 16th in FIP, Boston 20th and 25th. So yeah, really tough to make a call. The second half of this game is going to be a crapshoot. I like the fact that the Rangers are sitting at plus money. I think it's plus 100, but so I'm thinking either first 5 under in this game or the Rangers money line, or I might end up betting both next game. Royals on the road in Minnesota to play the Twins. We got Alec Marsh pitching against Pablo Lopez. Twins open up as extremely heavy favorites here, minus 250. Total opens up at 8. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. We got a heavy lean on Minnesota here. 7-1 Twins after 5 innings. Final score 10-3 Twins. I understand Alec Marsh got absolutely wrecked in his first start. And I also understand that Pablo Lopez is on the mound, but I just absolutely refuse to bet the Twins at this insane price. Alec Marsh in his MLB debut, he allowed 6 hits, 4 runs, 4 walks, and 2 home runs to the Dodgers. It was truly a disaster, but I'm going to cut him a little bit of slack because the Dodgers bats have been back for about a week now against righties. In the last week, they're 3rd in WRC+, 3rd in OPS, 3rd in WOBA. This kid had great numbers in AAA, and then he made his major league debut against the Dodgers. Let's cut him a little bit of slack. And to keep it a buck with you, this Twins lineup doesn't scare me in the slightest. Sure, they hit up Zach Greinke. Who the hell has it? Everyone's taking turns hitting that guy up. The Twins versus righties in the last 30 days, 21st in WRC+, 22nd at WOBA, 25th in OBP. This Twins lineup, like I said, does not scare me. Against Marsh's pitch mix over the last 30 days, the Twins are 22nd in WOBA, 20th in isolated power, 27th in run value. So I think based on how up and down this Minnesota Twins lineup has been this whole season, I think they might fall flat on their face here after rocking Greinke in their last game. On the other side, we got Pablo Lopez, and I know I said in his last start that his 5.94 ERA at home is a bit inflated, that we shouldn't pay too much attention to that. That being said, pretty hard to ignore these game logs at home. Look at his last 7 home games. Boston scored 5 on him. Milwaukee scored 3. Cleveland scored 6. Toronto scored 4. San Diego just 1. Kansas City 6 and Washington 5. Yes, that's right. I said Kansas City, the Royals went into Minnesota earlier this season and hung 6 runs on Pablo Lopez. Part of the reason the Royals lineup could potentially be a problem for Lopez again is the abundance of left-handed bats in it. They regularly start 6 left-handed bats against right-handed starters, and at home against left-handed bats is by far Pablo Lopez's worst split. 342 WOBA, 152 whip, and a 456 expected FIP. I think the Royals are going to score a couple runs off Pablo Lopez early here. Now, the Kansas City bullpen is just disgusting, and there's no way I can really realistically back Kansas City or tell you guys to do it. So, I mean, I'd say maybe if I'm going to make a bet on this game, it'll be Royals first 5 plus 1.5. You can get it at minus 115. I'll let you know what I decide to do in the live show next game. Cubs at Brewers. Justin Steele pitching against Adrian Hauser. Cubs open up as minus 175 favorites. Total opens up at 8.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. And according to the model, we got 3-1 Cubs after 5 innings. Final score 5-2 Cubs. I kind of don't have a lean on this one right now. I want to take a closer look at it. With the way these two teams have been playing recently, Justin Steele could pitch 7 shutout innings, and the Cubs could still lose because the Brewers have been absolutely destroying bullpens. Makes it really tough to handicap. Meanwhile, I'm not the biggest fan of Adrian Hauser, but the Cubs bats have been so inconsistent. About a week and a half ago, they were killing righty starters. Now they're getting blanked here and there, so I really don't know. I probably am going to bet this game, but I don't feel comfortable giving something out right now. I'll let you know what I decide on the live show. Next game. Toronto at Chicago. Blue Jays, White Sox. Jose Barrios pitching against Lance Lynn. This one opened up as a pick'em, minus 110 across the board. Total opens up at 8.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. According to the model, we got 4-3 Toronto after 5 innings, but the 9-inning score 5-5 tie. So we got a Lance Lynn game, which means you already know everyone's going to be betting Toronto here. And if you look at his numbers, who can blame him? Over his last 9 starts, he's got a 5.57 ERA, 3.48 WOBA, 141 WHIP. So you got to fade Lance Lynn, right? Well, hold on. You want to know what the White Sox record is in those last 9 starts where we were just talking about his terrible numbers in? They're 6-3 in those games. And Lance Lynn's got a 3.87 expected FIP, indicating that there's some positive regression coming for the guy. Look, it's tough to wrap your mind around it, but this might be a decent spot for Lance Lynn, honestly. To take it even further, Lance Lynn's got surprisingly great history against these Toronto bats. Through 148 career plate appearances, Toronto's hitting just 243 off him with a 681 OPS. The quadruplet of Chapman, Vlad, Bichette, and Merrifield, basically Toronto's four most important bats, they're just 14 of 74 lifetime off Lance Lynn with a weak 599 OPS. I mean, could Lance Lynn deal here? I think that's a possibility. I know that sounds crazy to say, but I think he could put together a quality start. And on the other side, we got Jose Barrios, and we're starting to see some cracks in this guy's armor, especially in his last 3 starts. If you look at his previous 5 starts before the last 3, he was on a warpath. A 1.11 ERA, 0.6 home runs per 9, an 0.99 whip. He was pitching great. Now, he did have a 4.80 expected FIP in those previous 5 starts, indicating that some regression was coming, and then we saw it. In his last 3 starts, he's got a 6.19 ERA, 2.8 home runs per 9. He's really been struggling in his last 3. And to make matters even more confusing for Barrios, he's heading to Chicago, a spot where he's really struggled in the past. Through his last 5 starts at Chicago, he's 0-2 with a 7.50 ERA and a 170 whip. Plus, historically, we know how bad Barrios can be on the road. And after going through a little bit of a hot streak, I think he had like 4 great road starts in a row. We finally saw that come to an end. He got rocked in Miami in his last start on the road. So these White Sox bats, the way they're hitting righties right now, in the last 14 days, they're 3rd in WRC+, 5th in isolated power, 5th in OPS. I think the White Sox are going to hit Barrios up, man. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I got to bet the White Sox again. I got to take them at the plus money price. I already know no one's going to tail me on this one. Don't care. Got to go back to the White Sox. Keep in mind, we almost won. Vlad hit a go-ahead home run in the 8th. It wasn't like the pick was terrible. But I'm going right back to Chicago. Give me Chicago money line next game. Angels at Padres. Patrick Sandoval pitching against Seth Lugo. Padres open up as heavy favorites here, minus 175. Total opens up at 8.5. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. We actually got a lean on LA here. 4-3 Angels after 5 innings. Final score 7-6 Angels. This is a tough one to bet aside, because if you're going to bet aside here, you have to choose between backing either the Padres bullpen, which has been so terrible recently, or you have to back Patrick Sandoval, who, wow, his last 5 starts have been a nightmare. And let's get into it. 4 of Patrick Sandoval's last 5 starts have been an absolute disaster. On his last 5 starts, he's had a 7.11 ERA, a 193 whip. He does have a 381 expected FIP, indicating that he's had some bad luck, but I watched his last start and he was awful. Also, when you've allowed 7+ hits in 5 of your last 6 starts, I think a high ERA is warranted. Now, say what you want about the Padres bats. They're definitely inconsistent. I'm not going to argue with you. That being said, they've been a lot more consistent against lefty starters. Over the last 30 days, they're 5th in WRC+, 4th in WOBA, and 6th in OBP. If you remember, when it looked like the Padres are kind of getting their shit together, it's because they saw a few lefty starters in a short span. So the Padres lineup has actually been hitting lefties. It's against righties where you just really can't count on them. So I expect the Padres to score runs off Sandoval. And even if they don't, the Angels have a weak bullpen backing them up. Over the last 14 days, the Angels bullpen's 23rd in ERA, 24th in WOBA, 22nd in hard hit rate. So even if by some miracle Patrick Sandoval is able to throw a good game, Padres could still hit their team total against the bullpen. So I like the Padres team total, like I just said. I think I like the over in last night's game. I didn't end up betting it. I'm pissed because it would have hit. I like the over in this one too. I don't have a ton of faith in Seth Lugo, especially coming off a great start against Cincinnati. Could bounce back and give up some hits against an Angels lineup that's been good against righties. So I'm going to say either Padres team total over or the full game over. I'll let you know on the live show. Next game, Mariners at Giants. I don't even know how to pronounce this dude's name. Pitcher for the Mariners, Darren McCahan. I don't know. He's pitching against Alex Cobb, the Cobster. No line, no total open for this one at the time of recording. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet, and we have no lean at all. We got a 2-2 tie after 5 innings, 9 innings, 4-4. Obviously, I got to skip this game for now. There's no lines or anything, but honestly, I might be skipping this game in general. I don't know anything about this dude pitching for the Mariners, so this is probably a pass for me. I'll let you know for sure on the live show, but most likely a pass. Next game, Mets at D-backs. Kodai Senga pitching against Tommy Henry. Mets open up a solid favorites here, -165. Total opens up at 9. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet. We got a 3-3 tie after 5 innings. Final score 5-4 D-backs. Well, I just talked about Kodai Senga in last night's video because he was supposed to pitch on the 4th of July, but ended up getting switched. Max Scherzer pitched instead. Not much has changed as far as my opinion of Kodai Senga. He hasn't pitched. His numbers on the road definitely look less reliable. 4.58 ERA, 161 whip, 461 FIP. That being said, his last 2 road starts, as I mentioned last night, dramatically lowered those numbers. He actually has dominant numbers in his last 2 road starts, 146 ERA and a 114 whip. But he does have a 473 expected FIP, indicating that there is some regression coming for this guy. And keep in mind, those 2 road starts where he had dominant numbers, they were against the Pirates and the Phillies. Pirates are dead last in nearly every category against right-handed pitching in the last 30 days. And the Phillies are whiff machines, which is a key factor in Kodai Senga's success. The Diamondbacks are definitely not whiff heavy, which doesn't fare well for Kodai Senga. I know I mentioned in last night's video that the Diamondbacks numbers against righties in the last 7 days not quite up to par with what we've seen over the course of the season, but the fact remains that over the last 30 days, they're still 3rd in WRC+, 5th in isolated power. I don't expect the Diamondbacks to absolutely rock Kodai Senga, but I'm thinking like 5 innings, 3 runs, somewhere in that range, which means the question becomes, what do we think of Tommy Henry against this Mets lineup? And Tommy Henry's been absolutely great in his last 3 starts, a 196 ERA, 125 whip, 463 expected FIP. Now, that does suggest a bit of regression, but the truth is, this man's been pitching well, especially at home. In his last 5 home starts, he's got a 313 ERA and a 123 whip and a 415 whip. So, yeah, maybe there is some regression coming for Tommy Henry, but I don't know if this is the spot for it. He's facing a Mets lineup that really struggled against lefty starters this whole season, and the Mets numbers against lefties get even worse when you look specifically on the road. On the road versus lefties this year, New York's just 22nd in WRC+, 19th in WOBA, 20th in OBP. I think Tommy Henry continues his little hot streak he's on. I think he pitches a good game. When it comes to the bullpens, you all know I have zero faith in the Mets bullpen. I think it's one of the worst bullpens in baseball. They're just blowing games left and right. Another major disadvantage for the Mets here. Over the last 2 weeks, the Mets bullpen is 17th in WOBA, 26th in FIP, 29th in expected FIP. D-backs in those same stats over the same time span, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd. So Arizona's bullpen has really gotten hot recently. So at +100, how am I not taking the Arizona Diamondbacks at home here? Give me Arizona moneyline +100 next game. Pirates at Dodgers. Osvaldo Bido pitching against Bobby Thriller. Actually, he doesn't deserve that nickname anymore. He's Bobby Miller again after his last few starts. Dodgers open up as heavy favorites here, minus 290. Total opens up at 9. Take a quick look at the spreadsheet. We got a lead on the Dodgers, 3-2 LA after 5 innings. Final score 5-2 Dodgers. So like I just said, Bobby Miller in his last 3 starts has been an absolute train wreck. 9.39 ERA, 4.04 WOBA, 189 WHIP. He's been bad. I don't want to let that completely erase what he did early in the season. I mean, through his first 4 starts, he had an 0.78 ERA and an 0.83 WHIP, 221 FIP, truly electric numbers. I'm sure this cold streak has to end at some point for this kid. And if it is going to end, which it will, what better place than against these Pittsburgh Pirates bats? I know the Pirates just scored a bunch of runs last night, but over the last 30 days, the Pirates are dead last, 30th in WRC plus, isolated power, and OPS against right-handed pitching. I think this is a great spot for Bobby Miller. And on the other side, we got Beto, who looked really rough in his last start. I mean, this is against a Brewers lineup that at the time was looking pretty dead against righties. I know they're seeming to wake up a little bit, but in that start against Milwaukee, he made it 3rd innings pitched, 4 hits, a walk, and 4 runs, and managed 0 strikeouts. Now he's got to face a Dodgers lineup that seems to have refound its magic against right-handed pitching. The last 5 righty starters to pitch against the Dodgers, 24 and 2/3 innings pitched, 7.29 ERA and a 1.62 WHIP. So the Dodgers lineup coming back to life against righties, starting to look more like the Dodgers lineup we saw back in early May. I think Beto might be in for a rude awakening here on the road in Dodger Stadium. Now, when it comes to the bullpens, let's give some props to the Pirates. The Pirates bullpen has dramatically improved lately. If you remember, about 2 weeks ago, they were the coldest bullpen in baseball by far. Over the last 2 weeks, they're 9th in ERA, 14th in WOBA, 20th in FIP. Solid numbers for the Pirates, but look at the Dodgers bullpen numbers. 2nd in ERA, 2nd in WOBA, 2nd in FIP. Dodgers bullpen has really come to life recently. So I think everything points towards a comfortable Dodgers win here. So my pick would be Dodgers minus 1.5, but there's something weird about this Pittsburgh Pirates team. For whatever reason, the Dodgers has always struggled with them. So I don't know if I'm actually going to bet this. I'll say Dodgers minus 1.5 and or pass for now. If anything changes with any of these picks I gave out in this video, I'll let you know on Twitter. So give me a follow there if you're interested. Also, like I've mentioned a few times, live show tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern time. We'll go through all 15 games, go through the line movement, make our final decisions. So if you're able to make it at 4 p.m. Eastern time, would love to see you in the comments. If you want the final tickets I put out, which has every single bet I'm making for the day, how much I'm betting on each, top bets, parlay of the day, that kind of stuff, head over to KyleKirms.com. Wednesday, 15 games. Let's bounce back. 4th of July was a great day of baseball. We didn't lose a ton, but we finished in the red. So let's bounce back and have a good Wednesday here. Remember to bet responsibly, and I will talk to you on Twitter.